evening, everyone. I'm Gwen Wilcox, a partner at Levy Ratner PC, a union-side labor law firm here in New York City, and a proud board member of the Peggy Browning Fund. I'm honored to be your MC this evening and to welcome you to the Peggy Browning Fund 2020 New York Virtual Awards Program. Although we cannot meet in person tonight, we are still able to recognize the achievements of our three awardees and the accomplishments of the Peggy Browning Fund. Tonight, we're celebrating 24 years of providing law students with experience in advocating for the rights and needs of workers. And we're also honoring three great leaders who spent their lives improving the standard of living and job security of workers and their families. Michael Puzo, Brent Garin, and Rosemary Townley. We thank our awardees for their patience while we rescheduled this event and for agreeing to participate in our first virtual award ceremony this evening. And finally, we salute our awardees and the host committee for their success in raising funds to help support PBF's important programs during the pandemic. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a beverage of your choice as I'm pleased to share the following message from the Peggy Browning Fund's president, Joe Laurie.
My name is Joe Laurie. I'm president of the Peggy Browning Fund. I'm also founder of the Peggy Browning Fund. Peggy was my wife, and this fund was founded as a legacy to her. She was a very big believer in workplace justice, the labor movement, unions. I think she's certainly a person who cared for people. She was a union-side labor lawyer, and she was the first union-side labor lawyer appointed to the National Labor Relations Board. And she was passionate about the labor movement and believed in unionism throughout the country. And she was a progressive person, and she put her words in actions. Unfortunately, about a year after she got appointed on the board, she developed breast cancer. And throughout the whole cancer, she never missed a day. She was the toughest person I ever met, and she was impassioned about the labor movement, and also a great woman, and a fun partner. After she passed away, I decided to honor her by establishing the Peggy Browning Fund and continuing her legacy. I came up with this idea to encourage law students who are progressive and interested perhaps in the labor movement to work for economic and social justice in the United States. I decided that I could do this by setting up a nonprofit. And it worked. It worked extremely well. So this year we had 91 paid fellowships out of about 450 applications. Notwithstanding the COVID pandemic, we were able to place 91 law students, most of whom worked from home. And from the feedback that we're getting now, they've all had great experiences, and we're very proud of that. Our National Law Students Workers' Rights Conference. It's a 2-day conference, which we've had every year in October. Then we have workshops, networking of students, keynote speakers, and things like that to encourage students. And we usually have about 170, 180 law students from all over the country. We're also proud of the fact that we are on stream to do our National Law Students Workers' Rights Conference virtually. And the third way to interest students is our regional workshops. So this year, we're having 18 regional workshops in law schools, from University of Washington to Southern University, from Harvard to UCLA Law School, and Stanford. So we're all over the country with the regional workshops where the law student at that university law school could come and learn about what it is to practice law for workplace justice. We know that workers' rights everywhere are being attacked. Labor needs lawyers, and law positions are available to young lawyers and older lawyers who come out of law school today and say, okay, I want to do this type of work. And we hope that the fellows that we produce are passionate and add that passion to the work they do in the labor movement and indeed make the labor movement stronger. It's a legacy for progressives in the United States who care about the labor movement, who care about workplace justice. And without you guys, that couldn't happen. So I thank you dearly for your contributions. We ask that if you know anyone, of course, who might be interested in supporting a program like ours and becoming part of our legacy, that you reach out to them. It's just been a great joy for me, and in a sense, almost a gift to work on something like this after practicing law for over 60 years. So, yeah.
Events like tonight's are the primary means of supporting our programs. We coordinate similar annual receptions in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Thank you all for your support of our programs. You'll notice that we are displaying the logos of tonight's supporters on your screen during this program. We have recognized our Leadership Circle members, those who make annual leadership level gifts, and tonight's sponsors, without whom this awards program would not have been possible. It's my pleasure to recognize this evening's steward sponsors, also our guardian sponsors. If you are moved by the messages of our speakers this evening and would like to make a gift to yourself or an additional gift, feel free to make your pledge on the form below this video. All gifts are greatly appreciated and needed during these times. Each year, we call upon one of our alumni to share their fellowship experience because we feel that there's no better way to demonstrate the impact of our programs than to hear it directly from a fellowship recipient. Tonight, we've asked 2020 Summer Fellow Saada Hassan to share her thoughts on choosing a career representing workers and their families and the experience of her summer fellowship during a pandemic. Saada is a rising 2L, or in her second year at CUNY Law School. She worked at Take Root Justice in New York City this past summer. Before law school, Saada was a Fulbright scholar in Jordan, documenting the labor rights violations of migrant domestic workers. She also spent time in Bangladesh with BRAC, supporting efforts to reintegrate returning migrant workers. Inspired by resilient women she met, she joined Global Fund for Women, where she worked on the philanthropic side to amplify funding and attention to global feminist movements through creative storytelling campaigns. Last year, she did a clerkship with the Mississippi Workers Center for Human Rights. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Saada Hassan.
I want to extend my gratitude and appreciation to the donors and all the supporters of the Peggy Browning Fund Fellowship. This summer internship was really a critical period for me, having just finished my first year of law school and being in a very exploratory stage of, whether or not I wanted to continue to focus on workers' rights as my career path. This summer, I worked with Take Root Justice in New York City on the workers' rights team, and I had a phenomenal experience, mostly because the organization has a really unique approach to doing movement lawyering work. So in terms of how they do their work, they partner with community-based organizations and grassroots organizations, and basically they try to connect those organizations to the law. And what we were really seeing that was happening on the ground was a lot of domestic workers were being fired or terminated for feeling unsafe of going to work, or they had COVID and the employer fired them. So it was a really interesting time to be at the organization, and particularly in the workers' rights space, because these are kind of unprecedented legal issues that the team had never really encountered before. Like, what kind of claim would a worker have in terms of safety and protection related to COVID-19. So a really big part of my role this summer was trying to see and explore what legal avenues were available to domestic workers during this time for those who were terminated unjustly. In terms of my overall experience, it's definitely solidified my interest in movement lawyering and how to do this work moving forward in my career, and being able to have this really holistic experience of one, working with the organization that I was assigned to this summer, but also being able to benefit from the other aspects of the fellowships programs in terms of networking, also the kind of brown bags that were organized this summer. It really was a transformational experience for me in terms of what I want to do moving forward. In these times now, it's more important than ever to invest in a new generation of leaders, particularly law students who are thinking about doing movement lawyering work, because there's so much work that's already happening out there in terms of activism, community organizing, and we really need a new lens to think about how lawyers can play a part in the equation for social justice. I just want to take this time to thank the Peggy Browning Fund for this amazing opportunity for me to deepen my commitment to social change, particularly working with workers' rights during this critical time with the current situation in the pandemic, and extending that gratitude as well to the supporters, to the donors, and to the overall community that's committed to doing this work for the long run. So thanks so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sadaf. I am so glad to know our future is bright with Peggy Browning Fellows and alumni. At this point in the program, we usually encourage you to meet our wonderful fellows and alumni representatives of the Peggy Browning Fund who are in the room this evening. Since we are not together in person, I'll suggest that you visit PBF's website, www.beckybrowningfund.org. Go to the News tab and click on the 2020 Fellows brochure to see for yourself why our mentors and many labor organizations that are hiring have come to prefer a Peggy Browning alumnus. Our first awardee has been a full-time independent arbitrator and mediator for over 35 years, serving the labor and employment law community in the metropolitan New York City region. Her experience includes mediation, fact-finding, and interest arbitration in the public sector, including bargaining units of police, firefighters, and educators. In the private and public sector, Rosemary's experience is a broad one and includes the resolution of approximately 3,000 disputes over the past 35 years. Her labor arbitration experience includes work in the airlines and telecommunications industries, universities, medical centers, newspapers, and related .coms, entertainment, and matters involving cities and states. She also served as one of 4 contract arbitrators for 8 years for the NFL and the NFL Players Association, where she decided issues dealing with non-injury grievances under the collective bargaining agreement. Our first awardee holds a JD from Brooklyn Law School and a PhD from Syracuse University, and happens to be recently married to a previous Peggy Browning Award recipient. The Peggy Browning Award is presented to Rosemary A. Townley, fair-minded arbitrator, stalwart supporter of collective bargaining, resolving conflicts between labor and management. I'm happy to introduce tonight's awardee, Rosemary Townley.
Thank you very much. I am honored to accept this award and to be part of that couple. We'll have 2 awards on the mantelpiece now. It is Howard Edelman, for those of you who have not heard, who is the other arbitrator mediator in the family, which makes for some interesting debates at the dinner table. When Rhonda called to tell me, I was both shocked and jumping around because I keep thinking I'm the young arbitrator, the kid on the block. But it is 35 years and I'm 68 years old. So I guess I'm no longer the new kid on the block. So in any event, I truly, truly thank you for this. Most definitely the most influential person in my life. And in terms of developing not only my interest in my career, but I believe in my character, is my late father, Angelo Mastorelli of Buffalo, New York, who was a business agent and president of stonecutters, mason workers in Buffalo. So he would take me to union meetings so that I could take notes. I was about 10 years old. Just to watch that as a child, as I was growing up, taught me that every work is honorable. Any type of work must be respected. And as my dad always said, if you don't like it, do something about it. Just shut up and do something. Don't just whine about it. And that stuck with me. And as those of you who know me out there, I cannot shut up. I will stand up and make it known as to what I believe. I know one advocate asked me once, how could you stand being an arbitrator? You never get that, yes, I won the case, or, whatever feeling. I said, well, I believe, for me at least, the joy comes from looking at your award and saying, all right, I know this is tightly reasoned and written. I feel good about it before it went out. But the icing on the cake is if you have the New York Court of Appeals or a federal court look at it and confirm your reasoning, because you never know which one may be challenged in court. You never know if a judge is going to be combing through your award. I think it's really incumbent on arbitrators to write clearly so that everyone understands it, not just a judge, but every member of the unit. If workers do not have representation by unions, I think we're in big trouble. And we are in trouble because we do see the numbers diminishing as time goes on. In my opinion, the Peggy Browning Fund is one of the few successful endeavors to train young, intelligent practitioners to move into that void and hopefully practice what I would call intelligent management, labor relations, regardless of where they're going to be working. They're just the cream of the crop. They really are. I would just urge the advocates who are among us, joining us today and otherwise, please start using the services of new arbitrators. It's really becoming a crisis because many of the new folks who are entering the profession are retirees already. And not to take anything away, but it is useful to groom young folks in their 40s, in their 30s, as I was when I started. Let's keep the flow of new folks coming into our profession. Finally, once again, I thank the Peggy Browning Fund for this wonderful award. I truly, truly cherish it, and I'm hopeful that I could live up to the standards that past awardees have set down in our profession. So thank you again.
Our next awardee is the Deputy General Counsel of SEIU Local 32BJ, where he is actively involved in organizing drives, negotiations, and arbitrations. He previously worked for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, Unite, Unite Here, and Workers United, including serving as General Counsel to Unite Here and later Workers United. Brent has also participated in our summer fellowship program at Unite and Unite Here for several years, and we appreciate his support to our fellows. Brent was an editor-in-chief of the leading text on NLRB procedure. He's a member of and past union co-chair of the ABA's Committee on Practice and Procedure under the NLRA, part of the Labor and Employment Law section, and is a graduate of Wayne State School of Law, summa cum laude. The Peggy Browning Award is presented to Brent Garin, activist lawyer, pursuing justice, supporting the labor movement, improving the lives of working people. It's my pleasure to introduce tonight's awardee, my friend and colleague, Brent Garin.
Thank you very much. This is indeed an honor that means an enormous amount to me. Fighting for social justice has never been my job or my work. It's been my calling. This is something that I got drawn to in high school in the 1960s and has been the central passion of my life other than my family. Peggy Browning was such an inspiring person. I didn't know her personally, but what she did on the board was heroic and inspirational. And the work of the Peggy Browning Foundation is so important because, as we see, nothing we have won is secure. We always have to fight to improve the lives of working and oppressed people. And that task falls to the next generation of labor lawyers, which Peggy Browning is doing so much to help create and build. Always worked for a union, never worked for a firm. And that suited me extremely well. What excites me is winning campaigns. And being in the union as a lawyer, I get to play often an important role in whether we win or lose the campaigns. The work is extraordinarily satisfying. The labor movement puts you in contact with workers in struggle, in motion. It's a privilege to be part of it. Some of the things I'm most proud of, one is the work I did as part of the U.S. labor delegation to the International Labor Organization in the 1990s. I worked on an international treaty for the protection of home workers, millions and millions of poor women, and it almost always involves child labor, doing manufacturing work in their homes. We were able to pass that international treaty. It was a great, great moment. The other thing that stands out really at the top of the list is my work on our airport organizing campaign. It was fascinating legal work. I was very proud of the work I did, but even more so, it played an important role, a very helpful role in an organizing campaign that has brought 20,000 or more workers into SEIU and has helped SEIU raise the wages for over 70,000 airport workers. There's nothing more important than fostering the next generation of labor lawyers. As we can see with what is going on today with the National Labor Relations Board in particular, nothing we have fought for is secure. We have to keep fighting, keep moving forward, and we can't do that without a new generation of labor lawyers. Thank you so very much for this great honor, and let's go forward and let's raise hell. Thank you.
Our final awardee this evening is a fourth-generation union plumber in the city of New York. He was initiated into Plumbers Local Union Number 1 in August of 1982 and completed the apprenticeship program to become a journeyman plumber, a general foreman, and project manager. A graduate from Mechanics Institute, New York City, in plumbing design, Mike was elected to the Plumbers Local Union Number 1 Executive Board from 1996 to 2001, and then elected Financial Secretary Treasurer in 2015, Business Manager in 2017, and became the Labor Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Plumbers Local Union Number 1 Benefits Fund. Mike takes tremendous pride in representing the hardworking members of Plumbers Local Union Number 1. He's a sitting member on the executive boards of the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York and the New York State Pipe Trades Association. Last year, Mike was appointed to the position of participant representative to the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters National Pension Fund by General President Mark McManus. The Peggy Browning Award is presented to Michael Apuzzo, union activist, inspirational labor leader, supporting the labor movement, improving the lives of working people. It's an honor to introduce tonight's Union Leader awardee, Mike Apuzzo.
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction that you gave me. I'd like to recognize some of the people that made this happen tonight. One being the other honorees, Rosemary Townley and Brett Garin. I'd also like to recognize the Peggy Browning Committee that picked me for this award. I'm very humble and honored to accept it. And a special thanks goes out to Rhonda Kelly, who had to go through extraordinary times to make this happen during these times. Thank you. My family's been in this industry for almost 90 years. So I've grown up with labor my whole life. Everything I've come from the day I was born to the day I have today, every benefit, my home, my family, my kids, everything I've gotten is through unionized labor. It's been a wonderful pathway, and it's very fulfilling. Being a labor leader is like being a labor lawyer. You do it for the right reasons. And it's not about the money, because I could have made the same amount of money on the private sector, but there was a burning desire to make sure that my members have a voice, so they have a livable wage, health benefits, and a pension when they're ready to retire. That's what it's all about. And a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. That's what we ask. My reaction when I was given this award was I was very proud and very humbled to be picked. I'm very, very proud to be even thought of to get this. And I know how labor lawyers work. I deal with them on a daily basis. Actually, as of this morning, I was on the phone. We're in the middle of negotiations. And having good labor lawyers is probably the most important thing in the labor unions. Having good labor lawyer gives you guidance, gives you policies, gives you good advice when it comes to negotiations. A good labor lawyer is priceless. What I like to say to the audience tonight is that how important we get through this pandemic, and how important it is to find a vaccination so we can continue with our lives and get back to what normal used to be. During the pandemic, we were working almost around the clock because we protect the health of the nation. We do all the hospital work for all the oxygen lines. So we were involved all through the pandemic. My guys were working on the triage centers at Jacob Javits and working in city hospitals, like the Elmhurst Hospital, where the pandemic and the disease was as hot as it could be. They worked through the whole thing in the rooms that the patients were working. I couldn't be any prouder than knowing that union plumbers stepped up when we needed them. In a time of need, we didn't back down. We put the job up first. I will say I can't be any prouder. It was just unbelievable. I've been attending the Peggy Browning Awards for years. We've had a lot of friends that have been awarded that, and we know how special it is, especially throughout the building trades. They're a big piece of our daily work lives. Having good labor lawyers stay in the industry instead of going to the commercial eyes or going for the big dollars is very important for labor. It's important to the working middle class that's out there that we need some kind of guidance because labor leaders can't do it on their own. We need protection on the NLRB. We need protection in every crisis that comes out, and we need their guidance almost daily. Labor lawyers are a certain kind of people. They have passion. They care about people. They care about the industry, and it really is something. They're wonderful people. I haven't met a bad labor lawyer. I met a lot of bad lawyers. I've never met a bad labor lawyer. I'd like to say thank you to the Peggy Browning Fund and to the other honorees who accepted the award. And to the audience, I'd like to say, we need to keep supporting good labor lawyers, and we need to keep supporting this fund. And also like to say thank you to all the labor lawyers that are coming up, stay dedicated to what they're doing. I appreciate everything you guys do for labor.
We hope that you've enjoyed our first virtual awards reception and invite you to join us again in 2021. I've enjoyed serving as your MC, especially as I celebrate my birthday with so many friends and colleagues. Once again, I remind you that if you are moved by the messages of our speakers this evening and would like to make a personal gift or an additional gift to support students who are deciding if a career in the labor movement is right for them, feel free to make your pledge on the form below this video. You will then receive an email directing you to our donate page, where you will be able to complete the processing of your gift after this program. All gifts are greatly appreciated and needed during these times. I'd like to thank the host committee and all of tonight's supporters. And once again, congratulations to tonight's winners. Cheers to all of you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe and be well, and see you next year.